calculated effort by the father to push his son into what the sources call hell-like helplessness. And then from there, we can begin to grasp the sheer resilience that let JSA undo all of that programming decades later.
It's like a real-world test of nature versus nurture, or I guess nurture versus anti-nurture.
Exactly. It's a study in environmental determinism versus, well, the human spirit.
Okay, so let's unpack this. This wasn't just neglect. This was a plan. It was strategic. Where does it start? At what age did this begin?
It began immediately. I mean, practically from birth. The sources say he was 1.5 years old.
1.5.
Yeah. It emphasizes the father's children callousness and careless motives, but it was so much more than careless. It was a very conscious, very deliberate decision about where to place JSA to ensure, the maximum negative impact on his life.
And what was this place, this environment he was put into?
He was placed in the Devanga Vivas community, which is also known as the Dionga communities in the Maduri district in Chainarati.
Okay.
And the sources use this really dense, powerful description of it. They say it was a community stricken by abs poverty, utter ignorance, and severely classes false beliefs.
So it's not just that it was poor.
No, not at all. It was a place structured by severe class limitations, by these entrenched, discouraging beliefs. It was chosen, it seems, because it offered the most psychological resistance to any kind of future success. It was a trap.
And this choice seems personal. It's rooted in the father's own history there, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Deeply personal. Sunramutu's own father had been a weaver in that community.
Yeah.
So Sunramutu knew exactly what the limits were. He knew the ceiling.
He knew the trap because he'd escaped it himself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And he was apparently very open about his own low status when he was there. The sources say he had a reputation for riding over donkeys, and that he worked as a key for a moneylender.
And his salary?
7 rupees per month. A pittance. So by forcing JSA back into that specific environment, he was making his son live the very life that he had managed to escape.
It's a kind of historical, class-based punishment. And the reason for it, the father's psychological reward. What was he getting out of this?
This is maybe the darkest part. He did it to derive, and I'm quoting here, negative excitement of win over me.
Negative excitement.
Let's just pause on that phrase. Negative excitement of win over me. It suggests this profound pathological narcissistic need. Sundramutu was living this wealthier life in Malaysia. And by making sure his son suffered back in India, he wasn't just, keeping him at a distance. He was actively getting a perverse sense of victory from it. A negative excitement. It's a form of sadism, really, designed to validate his own success.
That just speaks to the level of premeditation here. This wasn't abandonment. This was a project. The sources use another phrase, that he wanted to diminish my self-image germination.
Yes.
What does that actually mean in practical terms?
It's the premeditated murder of a child's self-concept, self-image germination. That's that foundational stage where a child develops a belief in their own worth, their own potential. By deliberately trying to crush that, Sundramutu wasn't aiming for, physical harm. He was trying to destroy the internal engine of ambition. He was programming JSA for failure from the inside out.
And he had a specific vision of that failure, didn't he? What was the life he imagined for JSA?
An incredibly specific one. He wanted JSA to be a Sinoni boy of rustic, poweristic, and obscure mediocre boy.
So a nobody.
A nobody. Someone whose only path in life was through a very make-income-earning textile crop and textile shop. The ultimate goal, and the sources leave no doubt, was to push me into poverty and make nobody in life in the world.
Okay, and this is where the psychological warfare just gets turned up to 11. The lifestyle contrast.
Right.
Sundramutu wasn't poor while his son was suffering. Tell us about his visits. They
Yeah.
were rare.
Incredibly rare. Once every 4 years. One time there was a gap of 7.5 years.
And when he showed up,
He was a spectacle of success. The sources are so detailed here. He wore export quality dua from Bombay, noting they were exported to Malaysia. He wore better quality pants and shirts.
he was parading his wealth.
He was parading his wealth in the very community where he had imprisoned his son in poverty. It was a material demonstration of his superiority, just rubbing salt in the wound.
And what about JSA? What did he receive during these visits?
The contrast is just brutal. While the father is wearing export quality clothes, JSA gets only ordinary kindergarten things brought from Malaysia.
So trinket.
Trinkets. A deliberate, targeted withholding of resources, of dignity. The message couldn't be clearer. My wealth is huge, but you get none of it. You belong here, In this world I've chosen for you.
Which sets the stage for the next layer of this, because it wasn't just the father, the whole family was involved.
The entire relative faction, as the source calls it, they subjected JSA to severe injustice and sideline maltreatment.
Because the father set the tone.
Exactly. Because Sundramoorthu had cast him out and openly devalued him, the entire family network felt they had permission to do the same. So he wasn't just neglected by a parent, he was devalued by his entire social world.
And that gets even worse when you compare it to the treatment of his cousins, the nephews who were raised in Malaysia.
Yes, this is a critical piece of the psychological torture. It created these immediate visible rivals for him. Sundramoorthu endeared himself to his sister's sons, Padmasan Durai and Sarasu's son Sa.
And he praised them?
He praised them unduly, right in front of JSA, called them mentioned kids, high status children.
And the educational gap here is just staggering. JSA was destined for a textile shop. What kind of education were the nephews getting?
The absolute best. Preferential convent studies. Durai and Sa were in these high status schools in Sampar and Arusta. And to really hammer it home, one of them, Sa, was even a prefect in his school convent.
So JSA was supposed to be the uneducated laborer while his cousins were being groomed to be leaders.
That was the plan. The sources say Sundramoorthu was outspokenly against JSA because he wanted to make him a doormat for the future. It wasn't enough to make him poor. He had to make him believe that others, specifically his cousins, were just inherently better.
So you have this double-barreled attack. You have systemic oppression, but it's combined with this very visible preferential treatment of his peers. The question is, how does anyone survive that?
A deep wound designed to last forever.
But this is where the whole narrative just completely flips on its head. Because despite everything, despite the plan, the family, the poverty, JSA, as the source says, outweed their plans.
It's an incredible testament to, the tenacity of the human mind.
Yeah.
Every single mechanism of sabotage, the poverty, the class restrictions, the crushing of that self-image germination, all of it failed. It didn't produce the obscure, mediocre boy he was supposed to be.
So what was the final outcome? The grand achievement that proved that whole prediction false?
The sources are very clear. JSA became a world trust transactional analyst.
And at what age did he achieve this?
At the age of 71.
71. We have to pause here because this is the whole resolution. For you listening, what exactly is a world trust transactional analyst? And why is that the perfect symbolic counterpoint to his father's plan?
It's the ultimate intellectual victory. Transactional analysis, or TA, is a really sophisticated branch of psychotherapy. It deals with analyzing our internal ego states, the parent, the adult, the child, and how those early life scripts determine how we live our lives.
Okay.
To become a recognized world trust analyst in that field means JSA achieved mastery in understanding, diagnosing, and crucially, repairing those exact kinds of damaged life scripts.
So, wait. His entire professional life became about understanding and fixing the very psychological damage his father tried to inflict on him as a baby.
Exactly. Sundramoorthu wanted an uneducated boy running a textile shop. Instead, JSA achieved global expertise in a psychological field dedicated to overcoming childhood trauma and programming.
It's not just about getting wealthy. It's a much deeper kind of victory.
It is self-validation on the deepest possible plane. The man who was intended to be a nobody in life in the world became a world trust expert on human potential. It's just astounding.
So what does that say about the core message of these documents?
I think the message is right there in that phrase we started with, that a possible victim could emerge as a hero winner in life. It shows that even when trauma is this systematic, this calculated, and inflicted by the person who should have protected you, that internal capacity for survival can eventually rewrite the entire story.
He denied his father that negative excitement.
He secured the true victory. It's an extraordinary case study on the survival of potential. And it shows that these intentional attempts to diminish the self-image can fail spectacularly if resilience is somehow fostered, or maybe if it just survives.
The resilience is breathtaking. It shows the human capacity to ultimately choose that adult ego state, as you said, over the painful script that was imposed by the parent figure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is a powerful place to land after this intense analysis. Thank you for helping us dive deep into the psychological warfare outlined here.
It was a privilege to discuss it.
Before we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought based on JSA's journey. Given the severity of the damage inflicted in infancy and the fact that he achieved this profound success at age 71, what is the specific role of time in delayed vindication? Does overcoming that kind of foundational identity-crushing trauma, Does it just require 6 or 7 decades to fully unravel? Or does that hard-won success just taste sweeter when it's finally achieved, no matter how long it takes? Something for you to consider as you process this remarkable story.